you were born in Russia,
Yeah.
but when did you come to New Zealand?
Like 2010.
Oh, okay. And how come you decided to come here?
Watched too many Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, you like Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Oh, like a lot?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, right. Okay.
Yeah, but like the game, there was like a card game, you know, like kind of like Magic the
Yeah,
Gathering,
yeah,
but
yeah. With
Lord.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Yeah, and then well, I also like wanted to study, like, and I did research on like
Uh-huh.
where to go study and the prices and the
Oh,
places,
okay.
and New Zealand seemed to be a good option.
Well, you studied here.
Yeah,
Where?
University of Auckland,
Oh, what did you study?
marketing.
Oh, cool. I studied marketing too.
Yeah,
Wait, what year did you study?
uh, 2011.
Oh, I was there too, actually.
Really?
Yeah, we might have even crossed paths.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I started there in 2010, and I from like
Ah.
2010 to 2014.
Oh, right. Well,
Yeah.
so 2011, but I
Yeah.
was like doing the graduate diploma, which is like all my papers were level 3.
Oh, okay. I was an undergrad, so probably not.
Yeah,
then.
so
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the last year.
Ah, and okay, so you're in Russia. You watch a lot of the Rings. You're like New Zealand is cool. I
Yeah.
want to go there to study, and you study marketing.
Yeah.
And you well you did a postgrad in marketing here.
Oh, it's a graduate diploma. It's like the last year of bachelor's essentially.
Oh, okay.
It's because I had a degree back home,
Yeah.
so that counted as like the rest of the bachelor's,
Ah, I see.
and it's just kind of like just marketing. I
Right.
didn't have to do any like generic stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then how does that link to float culture now? Like, what did you do after you graduated?
So I got a job in marketing.
Oh, yeah.
And worked there for like a year and a bit,
Uh-huh.
and I just hated
Oh,
working
really? Like a
like
full-time
a
9 to 5.
full-time job. There's a lot of like sitting around and just like
Like bullshit.
waiting on things,
Right.
and like the thing I hated the most was like you get a project, you work on it, you come up with an idea, you present it, and then my boss wasn't really in marketing. She was just like a executive assistant to the owner of the company, and then so I would like pitch it to her. Then she'd have to like, she felt like she had to put her input into this,
Oh, right.
and like
To make it her own, sort of?
to like
Take
I
credit?
don't know, add values, she thought.
okay.
And then this process would like completely just make
screw up the
this
whole thing.
idea like
Yeah.
fall apart.
Oh,
And then
okay.
we get this like a combined version presented to the owner.
Yeah.
And then he would make some changes, and then
Right.
the end result is some sort of like a turd that
Right.
everyone's happy with, like fine with, but no one's happy with. And
It's like a compromised product.
yeah, and then we just do that, and then it wouldn't take me long to do anything, and then like there's just lots of like sitting around and pretending to work.
yeah, yeah,
Because you
right.
can't just like leave and
Yeah,
go
right.
for a walk or just
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
the park,
Yeah, you have to fill the 8
and
hours.
you just sit on the computer and stare at it and like refresh or something.
Right.
And then like, I mean, I'm most productive in terms of thinking and like planning is when I'm doing something else,
Yeah.
like walking, surfing,
Yeah.
and then I can come back and
Yeah, yeah.
smash the stuff that needs to be done at the computer.
Yeah.
But it's just not how
The culture
like,
is
the corporate
structured.
culture works.
Yeah, wow.
So I quit, and then that was in Christchurch actually. So
Oh,
yeah,
right.
so I came back to Auckland then,
Yeah,
and then I was like, okay, I gotta do my own thing
right.
because this just doesn't work
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah, cool.
So I got like a part-time job,
Yeah.
and did that for a couple of years, and so I just like worked maybe 20 hours a week,
Cool.
enough to pay rent and groceries, and then work on my own ideas. And
Yeah,
then-
well, and was this one of the ideas at
Yeah,
the time? Oh,
yeah.
cool, right.
yeah, so then the float culture kind of like came together. It was like, oh, let's just, work on a business plan, see what happens, and then like
Whoa.
one step at a time, things start happening, and
Whoa.
then it'll just happen, and we're like, oh my god, how did that happen?
And have you had experience running a business prior to float
No.
culture? Whoa, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit, damn.
Yeah,
You just worked it. You just figured it out.
yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
and because at that time you had a partner, right?
Yeah. It was just him and me. He had a bit of experience in like finance,
Oh, cool.
and he worked worked for like uh, some telecom startup,
Yeah.
and as a finance person, and yeah.
And like, what made you decide? Like, why float culture? Like why flotation tanks?
Well, so we were like a bit on the journey of meditation as well,
Yeah.
and like self-development at that time.
Sure.
So, like feeling all optimistic about life, get a job, like gotta start your own way, and then, reading about like, the important things, like what do you tick off to be like the best version of yourself,
Yeah.
practices, and
Cool.
meditation was a bit part of it, and then
Yeah, of
as a
course.
part of that, like floating came up on YouTube,
Oh, okay.
and
Like Joe
we
Rogan and stuff.
actually not just a Vice channel.
Oh yeah, Vice did a good one.
Documentary.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, that sounds sick. Like,
Yeah.
let's Google it up. So there
Yeah.
was nothing in Auckland.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, how do we do it? So we went to New Plymouth.
I went there too, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I one time I drove with like two friends all the way down.
Yeah, that's
just
what
to
we
float.
did.
Oh,
Just
cool,
two of
cool,
us.
nice, yes.
Yeah. And it was
Yeah.
like a 4-hour drive. And
Yeah.
then like came in there, floated, and drove back.
Oh, on the same day.
Yeah.
Oh, far out.
Yeah.
And like, was that float change your life, or like how did it feel? Okay,
like,
yeah.
I mean, we were already kind of like pumped by the idea.
Sure.
Then we floated, and it wasn't like most profound experience I had, but
Yeah.
it made me feel very different.
Yeah.
Like I came out so like fresh and clear,
Yes.
and I felt like, wow, this is how I want to feel every day. If I can
Oh.
only feel this way
Yeah.
every day, I feel like I can do more in life.
Holy shit. Yeah, of course.
It opens up some potential.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we're gonna do it. And then like obviously we didn't have a house or anything to have like a personal float tank.
Yeah.
So the only option was really like
Start a
start a
business.
business, and we were
Right.
like already kind of like looking into ideas, and
Yeah.
yeah, that came together. And Joy, the lady in that float center in New Plymouth,
Oh yeah.
yeah, she was quite cool and inspirational.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the things she said back then about floating that kind of like motivated me through the years is like it's like a snowball effect,
Right.
right? You float, you make a little change in
Yeah.
yourself. You
Yeah.
feel differently with this different attitude and different mindset. You approach something, and the outcome of that action that you made
Yes.
is slightly different
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
were more coming from the space of like mindfulness and like
Yes.
presence, and that affects someone else. Like you
Yeah.
might treat someone differently, responded to their maybe stressful comment or something like
Yeah.
differently, and then it like
Like it snowballs out.
permeated out into
Yeah.
the society, and then slowly, just like that, float after float, you make a change, and
Interesting.
then
Yeah.
I was sold on that idea.
Yeah, because if everyone operated from that state, then it's like the whole world
yeah
would be in that sort of vibe, right?
yeah, and that state is essentially state of mindfulness.
Yes.
This is this is what's at the core of it.
Yeah. Well, it's like that's, it's like you have a bitter seed every time you float. It's like once you get into that state, then everything you do, it's like that seed is already coated in mindfulness. So whatever comes out of that it's like a mindfulness plant or a tree into the
Yes.
world, right?
Yes, and it grows more in sync with the world,
Yeah.
with the nature, with the
Cool.
it's more balanced,
Yeah.
because it didn't come from a space of like
Like anxiety.
stress
stuff.
and
Yeah.
anxiety and a struggle. It comes from space of easy flowing,
Yeah.
right? That's where the state of mindfulness exists, more in
Yes.
like this flow state,
Yeah.
and a state of ease and observation.
Yeah.
Um,
And you found floating was like the best way, or like the only way that you found you could get into that state?
Yeah, for me, I've been practicing like meditation for a while, but
Yeah.
not until I discovered floating, I was able to make like significant
Oh, really?
progress. Like
Whoa.
that literally changed me a lot. Like
Wow.
I think I was like a very different person. Like,
Oh, shit.
before floating, I was like smoking,
Really?
drinking on a regular basis.
Oh, okay.
into all sorts of unhealthy behaviors.
Right.
And then being able to reflect on these things and observe myself, think and feel like about those things, have feelings and thoughts about those things,
Yeah.
gradually made the change.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, do you have like perhaps an example of like one time where you were in this state and you really felt like, holy shit, I I made such a different move than what I was usually doing?
Well, not in that sense. It's more of a
Well, I guess even cutting out the smoking and stuff, that's already a huge
yeah.
difference.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
kind of easy. Like,
Oh, okay.
I was more like thinking, like, look, I have this habit
Yeah.
that just became a part of my everyday routine. So, like, there's activities that I do that require me to have a cigarette. Like, I just
Right.
feel like they're not full experiences unless I have a cigarette there. So, like,
Yeah.
a drive to work.
Right.
I was like, well, I can't just enjoy it unless I have a cigarette.
Oh,
It comes
yeah.
with a cigarette. I can't have a coffee unless I have a cigarette with it. It's like
Right,
a
right.
full experience.
Yes,
That I
yes,
climb a mountain to enjoy the view. It's
Yeah.
like the achievement of the
Yeah.
climbing the mountain, enjoying the view requires a cigarette.
Ah,
And
I
all
see.
this like life experiences had to have a cigarette there. And I was
Yeah.
like, damn, but there's so many people out there
That just
who can enjoy all these
Yeah.
things without having to have a
Yeah,
cigarette. It's like,
mm,
I feel like I'm like a slave to this
Yeah.
thing when I can't enjoy all these things without
Ah, I
it.
see.
And that thought made
Yeah.
me just quit cold
Right.
turkey. I
Wow.
never smoked again.
Yeah.
I think like freedom in general, like the
Yeah.
sensation of it, or like maybe like a search for it or something, like
Mm.
drives me a lot. So like maybe that's why it resonated with me so much.
Right. Like everything just felt like richer or deeper, like without needing like an extra hit to make it good. It's like because you're already so calm and mindful, it's like every subtle thing you could already almost like perceive the entire spectrum of that experience,
Yeah.
that feeling. So then
Exactly.
by itself, it already felt enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And like how did you so you couldn't get the float tank in your own house because you didn't have a house, so you needed to start a business to have a float tank.
Yeah.
Like how did you get like the money to do it, and like how did you find the space and stuff
Yeah,
like that?
so we set out on like looking for things, and then my business partner's parents said like, "Oh, we gotta like pitch in some." Then it was like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, well we got something like locked in."
Yeah.
So we continued the process. We were looking for spaces, and found this site on Water Street.
Yeah.
And then the landlord, we pitched the idea, and they were quite like receptive to it, and then
Cool.
they agreed to pay the fit out for
Yeah.
us.
Oh, cool.
Like on the terms that we'll pay it back, but it was interest free. I was like, great.
Oh,
We were, like,
really? Wait, so,
super
what, like the
grateful.
landlord for this building here?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, oh, like this is a great idea. I support you, and just pay me back when you can, sort of thing.
No, it was like a payment arrangement.
Oh,
like
sure,
we had to
okay.
pay
Okay.
with each rent X amount.
Oh, sure.
But there was no like interest on it.
Really? Whoa,
And-
that's perfect.
Yeah, it
That's
was
so
great,
good,
and they
yeah.
like did fairly good job at building the space, and
Yeah.
it all just came together like magically on the Water Street. So
Yeah, wow. It feels like you really just followed like your path, the flow, like the synchronicity. And you just did what you felt you really wanted to do, and then it just sort of all came together.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think the main thing is that in each decision we were making
Yeah.
and like deciding to take next step,
Yeah.
we were just choosing not to doubt,
Yeah, whoa.
right? You can
cool.
like choose a doubt and start like thinking like, oh, what if this
Overthinking.
happens and that happens, and you don't take an action, or you take a different action because that doubt drives you a different path.
Yeah.
But we were kind of like in the zone, and it's like we just take one step at a time and
Yeah.
don't think ahead too much.
Yeah.
Don't doubt and just keep on stepping until we can't go any further. And
Whoa.
we accepted the failure from the beginning. Like if it's
Sure.
not going to work, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then it all worked. And I think we all were like, oh, how did we just
Whoa.
make it happen? I don't know.
Wow, that's like first of all, that's amazing. Like I think if everyone could operate like that, it would be a very different world. Because, you know, sometimes people think 3 steps ahead and they start overthinking the third step. And they kind of like talk themselves out of even doing the first step that they could have done very well without all the
Yeah.
panic and fear and stuff. Do you feel like the floating helped you keep in that like almost stoic mindset of like taking action, or were you guys always like that?
Yeah, well, that at that period when we
Yeah.
were just opening, we haven't really floated
Oh,
that
that's
much. We
true.
only had
Yeah.
like maybe 2 floats in
Yeah.
New Plymouth, and then
Yeah.
um, we most of that change and this like insightful floats came afterward once we had access
Yeah.
to a lot of floating time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Right. Sure. Sure. Yeah.
at that point, I think it's just like this, just spirit of that time. We
Right.
felt like, well, I don't know. I personally felt free. Like
Yeah.
there was like no responsibilities, no commitments, and a whole world of opportunities.
Cool.
And weren't afraid to
To
just start moving somewhere.
yeah.
Like so that was like 10 years ago. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly when Uber came out,
Uh-huh.
but at somewhere around that time,
Yeah.
I was also like trying to pitch like essentially an Uber app to someone.
Oh, really? Whoa.
That
Cool.
Uber, I think at that time only existed like in the States.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then
Oh, wait, so
you know?
you started to try it. You tried to start an Uber in New Zealand.
Yeah, essentially.
whoa.
But
Okay.
at the same time, they whatever they called the New Zealand one for it.
Like Uber, Didi,
It's like a taxi one.
Ola.
Maybe.
Well, there's so many now. Though.
So many.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually used one ever, but
Oh,
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
But yeah, that was part of the process. Of like, oh, why don't we do that? I'm glad that we didn't, because like
Yeah.
I think it's very important for a lot of things to align for a project to be a success. At least for me, like
Yeah.
it needs to answer questions that I need to enjoy the process of it,
Yes.
have capabilities of doing it,
Yeah.
feel like it brings the greater good.
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
you're on a mission. You feel like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like bringing something
Yeah.
that you at least believe it's great.
Yeah. Like not just
Uh,
because you think it will make money.
Yeah.
But because you genuinely have your heart in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we weren't really considering money that much, to be honest.
Oh, cool.
It was like, yeah, we had a business plan that was
Yeah.
supposed to work, and
Yeah.
then we're focusing on this vision of like, you know, kind of like changing the world,
Yeah.
one
Oh,
float
really?
at a time. Yeah.
Right. And what? Okay. Oh, and you felt like Uber at the time was a world change. Oh, I guess it is a world changing idea in its
Oh
own way.
no, that's why
Okay.
that's why it didn't work out.
Oh, right, 'cause it wasn't
didn't tick
wor-
all the boxes.
Ah, I see.
it
Yeah,
was,
because I was thinking this is probably maybe more consciousness raising, world changing
Yeah.
than. I mean, not to say Uber doesn't have its benefits, but
oh, probably does. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Just not
Yeah.
right fit for me.
Yeah. Wait, so you guys like have you? What? So you're like, okay, I don't want to do a 9 to 5 job, and then you guys just went full into entrepreneurship mode, and you just tried all of these different ideas.
Yeah, one other one just for
Yeah. You throw it out.
entertainment is I want to do a spud truck.
Sorry, what now?
A spud, you know, like a baked potato.
Yeah, spud truck.
Spud
Oh,
truck.
cool. Yeah, no, they have spud. Yeah. I've had spud shops before in
Yeah.
Australia. They're great. Yeah.
Yeah, so they used
Yeah.
to be popular maybe like, I don't know, a few like decades ago.
Oh, really?
And so we
Okay.
wanted to do like 10 years ago, right?
Ah,
So
yeah.
before, when we wanted to do it, I didn't know of any except there's like
Yeah.
one in Hamilton or something.
Okay, sure.
And then, so we wanted to make it like healthy, like, you know, pita pit, but instead
Yeah.
of a pit,
Oh, it's a
you have
potato.
a potato with like
Okay.
a healthy topping.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
that I love
and,
potatoes.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
And then that
Right.
I'm glad we didn't do that, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't enjoy the process of it. Like I would
Oh,
enjoy
okay.
setting it up, but
Yeah.
doing potatoes every day,
Oh, like making it
all
for
day long,
customers. Yeah.
would get old pretty quickly.
100%. Yeah.
So at least for me, so
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't go down that route. But with floating, it felt different, because each client
Yeah.
you take in, you know, it's an opportunity to help someone.
Yeah. Right.
Conversation is different.
Yeah.
Like people come from slightly different, like mental spaces to float.
Yeah.
We have a bit different experience, and then with more floating by ourselves, we understand the experiences more and more, and able to give better information and better tips on what to do and how to approach, and just observing someone else journey like that is like feels very rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like if you compare like float culture to like potatoes and Uber, it's like worlds apart,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's like if you're already on a self-development spiritual journey, yeah, of course, I feel like float culture would like
Yeah.
it would have that depth that maybe you really need in a in a project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I found myself in this project.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been doing it for a while now.
Yeah, far out. That's and then at one point you also like started the kava bar.
Oh yeah. So as a part of like kind of like yeah, that was an interesting one.
Yeah.
As a part of this the same journey, I'd say, like
Yeah.
with the floating, I guess to understand why we tried to set up a cover bar
Yeah,
and
right.
did it as first we need
That's
to
right, yeah.
understand the place of floating and the way we see floating in the world.
Yeah.
So for me, when we started float culture, we wanted people to experience what we did in the first float, but also as we continued floating and learning things from it, from essentially the darkness of floating, when there's like
Yeah.
no input, how can you learn so many things that can transform the way you think and you live?
Yeah.
It's just because this environment just triggers and forces you to be more mindful, more mindful with yourself. It's like a forced date with yourself.
Right,
Right?
right.
You're trying to avoid yourself all day
Yeah,
long with
yeah.
scrolling social media, watching
Yeah, yeah.
YouTube,
Sure.
Netflix, and all these things.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things that still happen on the back of your mind go unnoticed.
Yeah.
But in a floating, they all come rushing to you.
Yeah.
And it could be interesting, could be challenging, it could
Yeah.
be all sorts of things.
Sure.
But the more you float, the more you're forced to deal with those things and address them and understand the way your thoughts unfold, the way
Sure.
they impact your and affect your body, the way they direct your actions and habits.
Wow. Yeah.
And then from there on, sort of like that mindfulness that you develop in the floating, ideally you're trying to take out of the floating, incorporate it in your day-to-day life, that
Yeah.
just feeling of being present
Yes.
and with whatever you do.
Yes.
So then we're thinking like, well, this sort of experience requires a space for people to be able to come together, connect, and talk about.
Whoa. Right.
Because
Cool.
obviously, like between the floats, we only have like 10 to 15 minutes to talk to someone,
Yeah.
which is sometimes not enough.
Yeah.
And would like to have a more thorough conversation, people to maybe
Yeah.
open up and
Yeah.
explore all sorts of ideas.
Yeah.
And so we thought like there needs to be some social space
community
that
element.
can facilitate this sort of conversation.
Sure.
Ourselves, like when we started, me and my business partner at the time, we would have kava each time
That's
we would
right.
have a meeting.
Yeah.
So we were like a bit of a like different personality types, so sometimes
Yeah.
those meetings would be a bit rough. So
Oh,
that's
right.
how kava gets introduced, because when we
Oh.
had kava, the meetings would just flow. There's a
Really?
bit more understanding. Everyone is a bit more relaxed and
Wow.
listens a bit better.
Yeah.
And it comes from just kind of like a bit more
Like love.
love space.
Yeah.
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 So we were doing that, and then yeah, that's kind of like start the thinking process. Well, why don't we create a space where
Yeah.
this can happen for
Yeah.
everyone?
Uh-huh.
Because I mean, currently, I feel like all the social gathering spaces involve alcohol,
Yeah.
and you know,
It's like it's a different vibe.
it's a very different vibe.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, in my experience, it's more of a disconnecting
Yeah,
substance than
yeah.
connecting.
100%.
Like you might feel like you connecting with someone,
Yeah.
like when I went to bar a couple times, completely sober, and observed people
Yeah.
communicate and hang out,
Yeah.
just give me a vibe that they were talking to themselves.
Yeah, it's like
through someone else.
They might be more confident, let's say, but they're not really connecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So it's like everyone has their own conversation.
Yeah.
That they're having with someone else.
Yeah.
And they don't overlap.
Yeah, they don't actually see each other.
They don't see each other.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And so I found this is not conducive to mindfulness. So we needed a space and a drink that would go with it. And Kava seemed like a right fit. And so we teamed up with people from Kava Society.
Yeah.
And did Kava Bar
for
a bit, and then then we just chose to focus more back on float culture, and they still doing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that is such a good idea of like when you finish floating, you have a period of like integration where you really sort of, maybe you talk about it or you just sit by yourself, drink some kava to get the full benefits of the float out before you just rush off to do something else. But like, let's say like you do have the kava bar, like, which is, further away in the city. It's not like just right next door to the float center. So I guess you couldn't really just go from like one float directly into a communal space to talk about it, right?
Yeah, that was a bit not ideal.
Yeah,
but this was what was possible at that time.
But even here, I feel like can't you just like just have people just chat here on these very comfortable couches?
Yeah, we often that often happens as just the time restrictions with like preparing the rooms and
like not necessarily with you guys, but with like other
each other.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Okay. Cool.
It's just, I guess, it's the expectation, like the space itself, like when you go to a bar or like a kava bar, and on the door, you like in the kava bar, it's the slogan is it's a good high quality kava and conversation.
Oh, I see.
Right, so you expect a conversation here when you kind of like in the transit of a business service. Some people wouldn't expect this to happen, and so they're not open to the opportunity.
I see.
So I think like a setting needs to be a bit more explicit that this is like what could happen, and you can expect that to be there. So for our new space, we hoping maybe to have a bit more the space design a bit more conducive to this sort of communal aspect.
Well, I think if you had like a cafe integrated into this center or something, that would be really good. Right, that would, because like I went to this place in Amsterdam called Kokopelli, which is like a mushroom cafe. So you could buy magic mushrooms, and then you can just trip out. They have like a lounge where you can just trip out, and it's like you're facing the water, and it's very beautiful. And so you can trip, by yourself, but more often than not, other people will join you, and you just trip out together. And you make connections really quickly. And because you're tripping on mushroom, that's also like another level of of connection, right? But even like let's say you don't trip on mushrooms, but you just go there. They have teas and stuff you can buy. You can buy a tea and just sit down at the lounge, and then like it's a very loving, organic, warm connections that happen. Like I think people when they go there, even for me, like the first day when I got there was like straight after being in London or being in England, where the culture feels more like distant and a little bit more cut off. So the first day I went in, I was sort of a little bit like keeping my distance, but then like within like 5 or 10 minutes, just the like the shop the shopkeeper person, like he was just so like chill and funny. We just started like cracking up, just like for some reason, sort of laughing, and then like it just immediately flipped the switch on my mind. I was like, oh shit, I'm not in England anymore. I don't need to like try to be all like everyone here is like really happy and really loving, or it's more like that. So immediately I felt really comfortable to like talk to him or other people in the shop and just start making connections like straight away.
So did you make like friends there on mushrooms?
Yeah. Well, I feel like every night I went there, I talked to people, and then we like exchanged Facebooks or WhatsApp and stuff like that.
And it was all on mushrooms.
I wasn't. on mushrooms for some of the nights, but some of the sometimes I was, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people they go there and they're not yeah, they might just have a tea or something, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think just the general vibe has already been set where it's
Mm.
very warm, very like lubricated to like
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
connect, you know, and people don't feel as like scared to connect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I feel like this center also has that sort of vibe. It's like a different vibe, but it's also a very like safe sort of energy.
Mm.
So like if you pair like yeah like a cafe or a couch area where people can like sit and chill and talk about things after, like
Yeah.
even if they didn't float on the day, they were just there,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
they needed to come in to just have a coffee or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, we're missing
Yeah.
that a lot in society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There needs to be some spaces for that.
Yeah, well, it's I mean the concept is called third spaces. I think we were talking about it last
Yeah,
time. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like you know instead of bars and parks and you know libraries where it's not you know so like this. It's like
Mm.
you know besides you know when you were in school or something you had like that spot at lunchtime you meet with your friends and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that and it's yeah, but you know outside of school and you know bars there isn't anything like
Mm.
that or to that extent.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Mm.
Yeah, I one time I had this idea of like having a place where like people that just feel like and I wanted to call it like a synchronicity center where like people that just wanted to like chill out or hang out or like you know like just to socialize and be amongst people and to connect they can just go there and then everyone that goes there have a similar intention of like hey we're just here as human beings wanting to connect with others and then they can just like yeah just like
do it.
yeah just meet people
Just
and
do
just
it.
like hang
Yeah,
out
yeah.
you know yeah
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's part of the vision, I guess. That's why there's a word culture in float culture.
Yes.
Right? It's a culture that requires people.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
need
100%.
people and it's a culture, around the way we treat each other, the way we
Yeah.
connect with each other, the way we think, the way we express ourselves and
yeah
yeah.
yeah
So hopefully, we can do it
yeah well,
in the
I hope
next
so too.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think when like there is like maybe another thing attached to the space, like whether it's floating or it's just a cafe, I think it sort of adds, it makes it more fun or it relieves some of the pressure of maybe being too direct. I don't know when you're
Yeah,
connecting with
yeah.
people. So yeah, it's like like you can talk with someone directly or you can talk with them while walking or while over a tea, and maybe it sort of
Yeah,
it
yeah,
adds a different layer to it that helps.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And like, cause you now you guys have like four float rooms, right?
Yeah, 4 here and 1 in Titirangi. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what made you decide to add more rooms?
Um. Well, we started with 2, like, but
Yeah.
we had in mind 4. We just didn't have
Oh,
enough
right.
funds to do 4 right away.
Yeah.
So as things got better, we added 2 more here, and then the Titirangi was more of this new project for
Yeah.
the self-service automated
Yeah. Right.
facilities, and so that took a while, and that happened,
Yeah.
and yeah, so now we're like looking at setting up another space potentially with this self-service automated concept where
Yeah.
people can float like 24/7 and use
Yeah.
other wellness practices as well,
Right. Right.
and potentially would have the space to hang out and
Yeah.
connect with others, and
Yeah.
all ideally on like a fairly affordable rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and how many like float tanks would you want in the new space?
Probably just 2,
Okay. Cool.
because it's just additional,
Yeah.
space to this one,
Oh, I see.
and 1 like a fire and ice room, which is like a sauna and a cold
Cold bath.
plunge.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, well, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because this one is really cool. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like after doing this contrast therapy, you
Yeah.
also feel similar to
Floating.
the way you feel after a float,
Right.
but through a very opposite process.
Yeah, right. Very
Because
intense.
that process kind of like kicks in your
Yeah.
fight and flight.
Yeah,
Because
right.
you're like so cold, so
So
hot.
hot. Yeah,
But
yeah.
then afterwards, you're like so present and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
relaxed
right.
and embodied.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's kind of like a different approach, but like the way you feel afterwards is
It's similar.
similar.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, for floating, it's like you're trying to get into that. Let's say this is the middle, and that's where you're balanced. And maybe some people are too active and some people are too underactive. I think when you float, it tries to bring you back into the middle point. Whereas
Yeah.
like when you do hot and cold, it's like it doesn't matter where you are. It's like it's gonna pull you on one side really quickly. It's gonna pull you on another side really quickly, and it just keeps like until it gets
Yeah.
you in the center, and then
Yeah.
you sort of get to the center point as well. But it's like a different,
Yeah, yeah.
different method.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
center is
yeah,
like it's a good example because the center is the point of letting go and
yeah,
acceptance.
yeah,
Because when it's hot,
yeah,
you feel hot, and
yeah.
it's hard to stay in a hot environment until you accept that, and then
Oh,
you're
true.
fine with it for a while.
Yeah,
Obviously, there's like a limit to it,
sure.
physical,
Yeah,
and then same with the cold. You get
yeah,
in, and your brain goes on fire, and you're like, "Oh
yeah,
my God, I gotta escape this. This
yeah,
is horrible. This is so hard."
yeah,
Until you connect with your breath and you accept it and you stay there,
yeah,
and it becomes not so bad
yeah. Right.
because you let go of that.
Yeah,
And the same with the floating, you get in,
yeah,
and there's nothing, and
yeah,
all this you start noticing all these thoughts
yeah,
and emotions and like bodily sensations. And for some people, especially like on a high
yeah,
with high anxiety, this could be challenging.
yeah,
So, but accepting and letting go is the point
yeah.
in the middle.
Yes.
That's when you
Yeah.
find
Like
kind of like
peace.
peace,
Yeah,
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 and presence. You
yeah,
live in present
yeah.
moment.
Do you need to take your poll?
Yeah.